The second part of these notes is focusing on the difference between a conductor and an insulator, and this is where I really rely on some of my students to step up and remember what those were from the reading in the previous day. So these things are things that my students bring up, and I just make sure that the wording is the wording that I would like them to remember. So material that allows charge to flow freely, that is what a conductor is, and they kind of talk about that in the reading and use that kind of language. And in an insulator, it's the opposite. It doesn't allow the charge to flow freely. I also like to talk about the conductors and insulators at the atomic level. So when we're talking about atoms, and remember the electrons are the only things that move, if the charge is flowing freely, like in a conductor, how are the electrons held? They're held a little bit more loosely. They can move around more freely. And then it's oppositely in an insulator. Then bringing up examples, students pretty much know that conductors are insulators. Our conductors are metals, and insulators are plastic, glass, rubber, things like that. We also talk about semiconductors because that's a term they may have heard before. It's sometimes a conductor, sometimes an insulator, and those are things that are special that we use when we need something that doesn't always conduct. So I really want them to mainly know the difference between a conductor and insulator, but I want to make sure they have the vocabulary still. I also talk about what a ground is, and so that's a place that remains electrically neutral, and so that's a place that is like a reservoir of charge. So in the case of A, it's a positively charged object, so it could be provided electrons to be neutral, and then B is the negatively charged object, so it takes away the electrons. And so I talk about how in an outlet, the ground is that bottom part, and we talk about what types of appliances have those, and it's the refrigerators and the TVs and the computers and the things that could build up a lot of charge, and so that ground is there to help protect us, to take away all that excess charge.